Okay, this is part 16. I'm just going to go over a lot of things that I mentioned and flesh them out a little bit here. This is the camera right here that filmed Star Wars, and we see all the movies that it has previously filmed, and we notice the man who would be king is in here. So that's interesting, a little fan photo. Um, this is the Apollo 13 movie where they have to get the square peg in the round hole with the duct tape. Singing in the Rain stars Gene Kelly. He's like king of the dance or something. Anyway, remember Gene Kelly. Here's Gene Tooney. Let's go this way here. This is the episode The Cage, and I froze the video right at the point the computer from the Telosians was reading the computer in the Enterprise. And we see a little picture of the South Pole was flashed on the screen for a tiny fraction of a second during the episode. It is edited out in the menagerie. It's not included. So that was interesting. So what things were edited out of the menagerie you need to look at carefully. This is the Apollo 13 Aquarius, and they went to stir the moonshine tanks and it exploded. And, this is the 13, 13, 13, 13. Apollo 13 launches at 1300 hours. On April 13, it has an explosion at 1300 hours. There's 52 cards in a deck, 13, 13, 13, 13. 13 cards per suit. Let's go here. This is a good one. Remember I said we're always looking for handmade items. The handmade Apollo sweater, or the handmade Adams probe car, or the handmade Morgan car, or the hand-knitted cashmere sweater that's lost on the space station. Well, here's Eugene Kranz, the man that basically ran all the Apollo launches. And every mission that he did, his wife would come in and she would present him with a handmade vest that he would put on. This is seen in Apollo 13, the movie with Ron Howard. Ron Howard was another alchemist. We see Eugene Kranz, another Gene. We'll put him over in the Gene category. Here's They Live. We have the one-legged man. This language is being used in lots and lots of movies, and we've been eyes wide shut all along. So there's your one-legged man in the unemployment office. In the Cage, there's another scene they edit. They don't show the fact that this race can produce doppelgangers, twins. This is two Captain Pikes here: the illusion Captain Pike and the real Captain Pike. So once again, it's the things they edited out of this episode you need to look at. Oops, didn't want to do that. Here's Eugene Kranz's vest in a museum. It's a handmade vest. Here it is in Apollo 13. We have Ed Harris wearing the handmade vest. It's a handmade item. Or weaving. We got Sigourney Weaver. We got Quilty and Lolita. We got the wicker hat that Betsy von Furstenberg wears. We have the wicker chairs that Stanley sits in. We've got the terrier dog. We've got the Eugene Kranz handmade vests. Here's James Forrestal dies. He jumps out of the 13th floor. He was friends with Admiral Byrd. The bird is the word, the eagle, the falcon, the roadrunner, the cuckoo. Here he is with the president. Here's James Forrestal's funeral, and he gets the covered wagon deal, just like JFK. And I don't know if he got the riderless horse. I don't think he did, but that would be Jack Nicholson when he says, "Oh, back in covered wagon times." Well, covered wagon times is JFK's funeral, Forrestal's funeral. Anybody who got a covered wagon would be covered wagon times. Here's Red Room. He dies October 18th. This is Arliss Howard's birthday. This is, I've listed them before. There's a bunch of birthdays that are October 18th. And so, he's the Jungian famous horse. Here's the One-Eyed Jack from, this is the same guy that plays the writer in Clockwork Orange, plays this guy. And he's a gambler card shark. You know, there's Barry Lyndon in the one leg. He loses his leg. The one-armed man, the one-leg man, the no-nose man, the one-eye man, the one-ear man. It's always missing limbs. The Apollo 15 fallen astronaut Kubrick that was left on the moon is missing his arms. Here's Eugene Krantz with his vest. Here we go. Oh, this is obscene. I can't show this. Hang on. Here we go. This is Jamie Lee Curtis, and we have the See You Next Wednesday poster. Well, See You Next Wednesday is a clue to Kubrick's unmade movies. See You Next Wednesday was never a real movie, yet we see this movie mirrored in lots of movies. It's a little way to jump from one movie to the next. You know, she wears a red wig in this. She plays Ophelia. On Apollo 15, we have Shakespeare Crater. We have Horatio Crater. We have Sherlock Crater. So we're being clued into Shakespearean themes. So she plays Ophelia. She's the Queen of Scream. She's born on the same day Kennedy dies. She's in the movie Halloween. She plays Laurie Strode. I mean, it goes on and on and on. She's very linked into it. And she's a pinup model, which is a category. And clearly, you know, she's not flat. Here's Lucille Ball. Lucille Ball is Desilu Productions. Lucille Ball is the one that makes Star Trek happen. So she's a redhead. She's got the ball, Lucille Ball. And so Lucy is very essential to the whole Cage episode production. Here she is again. We see the See You Next Wednesday poster and the red hair. She's playing Ophelia. Trading Places is alchemical. Aaron Russo was murdered. He talked about 9/11 and Rockefeller, and they murdered him. Here's the writer, and of course we're always looking for typewriters. There's a big clue set as well. You have the Adler and the Underwood and Corona, and it goes on, Smith Corona. And we have writers. So when we find J.D. Salinger, it isn't, you know, we've been clued in, we're looking for writers. You know, Jack says in The Shining, you know, I'm a school teacher, but I'm really a writer. I just do the school teaching to make ends meet. And, you know, I might have to moonlight shoveling driveways and working in a car wash, just like Breaking Bad. He works in a car wash, born on the same day as Kubrick. And there's the snakes, the boa, the Sidewinder, the asp, the Apollo simulation project. You know, here's the South Pole, which we see for a split second in the cage. Here's I don't want to go into that yet. You know, Breaking Bad is alchemical. This guy, I can't think of his name right now. Bryan Cranston is born the same day Kubrick dies. So if we're looking for a Kubrick ping pong guy to play Roman ping pong with, Bryan Cranston is your guy. So are there any clues that Bryan Cranston is your guy? Well, he plays Heisenberg, so we already have the atomic bomb and Oppenheimer and I Am Become Death. So he plays Heisenberg, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And his best friend is Jesse Pinkman, you know, and he works in a car wash, just like Jack does, shoveling driveways or working in a car wash, moonlighting. There's Gene Tooney. He's very good friends with, he's a boxer. He's very good friends with James Forrestal. Gene Tooney and James Forrestal hung out. Tooney comes aboard the ships and he does workouts with the sailors. Very good friends. And he fights Jack Dempsey. So we already had Jack Dempsey. Here's MJ-12 with Forrestal. You know, here's all of MJ-12, all the members. And they had to eliminate 1 out of 12, 11 out of 12. Star Trek. The Cage is episodes 11 and 12. You know, for the Apollo 11 landing, we have 12 men land on the moon. We have 21 astronauts. This is the man that sold your country down the hill. This is Woodrow Wilson. So we have Woodrow Wilson Strode. We have Jackie Roosevelt Robinson. So he's giving you the presidents with Jackie Robinson and Woody Strode. He's giving you Woodrow Wilson and he's giving you Roosevelt. So this man, you know, he sold this country down the road. So Woody and all the references to him and the Federal Reserve creation now make sense. You know, he's Eugene Krantz's vest in the museum, and red, white, and blue. I don't write for that one yet. Here's another example of how I said that fisheye lens was used throughout the movie. If you notice this is curved, and this is curved, and this is curved, and this ladder is curved. Why are all these things curved in here? Because it's being filled through a fisheye. A very subtle fisheye, but a fisheye nonetheless. You know, we see it here again. It's really obvious here. We're filming through a fisheye. This is Kubrick's fisheye clues. You know, another, look at this one. We can see the whole thing is totally fisheyed and globular. Let's go to, there's Tycho, the man with no nose. First man that could prove we didn't live on a globe. And the stars don't show any parallax change. Here's Admiral Byrd shaking hands with his really good friend, his companion, James Forrestal. So this is the man that does Operation High Jump, Long Jump. This is the man that's in MJ-12 and finds the saucer in Corona. So these two men are really alchemical. We need to see what goes on with them in this puzzle. Here's Gene Tooney sparring with the Navy sailors. He was friends with Forrestal. You know, we have the boxer's thread. We have Rocky. We have Rocky Marciano. We have the Carpentier fight. We have the Jack Dempsey Terrier. You know, we're being pointed to boxers. We have Frank Poole shadow boxes. You know, it goes on and on. Here's Ron Howard. He does the Apollo 13 movie. So we have Arliss Howard, we have Kevin Major Howard. A movie that this man does is Willow. So we have the trees category. You have elm, oak, willow, laurel, Hollywood, and it goes on and on. I'll make a list of those. But he's alchemical, and he knows that the Apollo missions were fake, and he hides it right in front of you in Apollo 13 with the duct tape. And here's the Apollo 17 landing map. I don't think I showed you this one before. You know, we have Shakespeare Crater. So we have Ophelia in Trading Places, played by Jamie Lee Curtis. We have Horatio. There are more things in this world than are written about in your good book, Horatio. We have Tortilla Flat. Well, we had Catcher in the Rye Bread. So if you have flat bread, what do you call flat bread? Well, it would be a tortilla flat. We have the massive turd, the Turgidson, the pile, the mare, the Philly, the Huey City. Here we have Lincoln Scarp. You know, we have the Lincoln dies on April 15th, the same day the Titanic sank, the same day Jackie Robinson Day, the same day as IRS Tax Day, the same day as the first flight of the B-52. So that's the April 15th thread. This is the last mission. This is the mission they take the one and only picture of Earth in space, the blue marble, in 1972. And they only take one picture. They don't take two. They don't take three. They take one picture. And for 30-something years, this was the only picture of Earth from space. It's in everyone's textbook. And, you know, we have Camelot. This was the nickname for the Kennedy White House, was Camelot, because he was out banging everyone. We have Cochise, the last of the Apaches that was fighting, known as the Napoleon of the Apache. So we have Light Mantle, we have Mickey Mantle, the baseball player. Taurus is a bull. It's also a constellation in a star system. So we have, you know, the one-eyed Minotaur, you know, which is a combination of the Cyclops and the Minotaur. And with one eye, you can't see parallax changes. With two eyes you can, so a one-eyed Jack is a two-faced person who can't see parallax changes. Let's see here. What else we got? He's the first Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal. So, you know, he was murdered. There's no doubt he was murdered. Here he is in Iwo Jima. Now, when Apollo 11 splashes down, they're picked up, I believe, by the Iwo Jima. No, I'm sorry. When Apollo 17 splashes down, the last mission, they're picked up by the Iwo Jima. So once we had the Yankee Clipper ship name, we had the Eagle ship name, the Falcon ship name, we had the Discovery, Robert Falcon Scott's ship, the Discovery 2001: A Space Odyssey. So we already know we're looking for ships. So the ship that picks up Apollo 17 is the Iwo Jima. So here's Forrestal in Iwo Jima. And there's the duct tape, the shiny duct tape in Apollo 13, and the black duct tape used in the movie The Shining. You know, it's always the Jungian shadow. There he is putting on his vest in the movie. This man here, David Prowse, ends up playing Darth Vader in Star Wars. So why are we being clued into this guy? Well, turns out that David Prowse had won Mr. Olympian, which is a very prestigious title. You don't just go to the gym a few times and win Mr. Olympia. You have to be very dedicated and you have to. It's not an easy title to win. There's not many Mr. Olympias. There's only one a year. So the person that came to mind immediately was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Isn't he Mr. Olympia as well? Yeah, I think he is. So we have a new category. We have Mr. Olympias. You know, Billie Jean King was an Olympian. You know, the Battle of the Titans, they were Olympians. This is a very clever picture here. It's missing one frame now, but I'll explain that in a second. You have Billy the Kid. We have the Corona, New Mexico Museum. Billy the Kid was hung out in Corona, New Mexico. He was from New York City, just like Kubrick. Then we have the Corona crash, happens in the Lincoln Forest in Corona, New Mexico on Mac Brazel's sheep ranch. We have Smokey the Bear is rescued in the Lincoln Forest, Corona, New Mexico. And then we have the one missing picture here is Pat Garrett is shot by Wayne Brazel in the Lincoln Forest on Wayne Brazel's sheep ranch. Wayne Brazel's sheep ranch becomes Mac Brazel's sheep ranch, which is exactly where the saucer crashes. And so all four of these things, you have Pat Garrett, Smokey the Bear, the Corona crash, and Billy the Kid, all happen in the Lincoln Forest. So it's it's one of the Forrestal clues. You know, I mentioned earlier about how the Gold Room bar is a mirror of the three sandbags that we see in Paths of Glory, the three men that are sacrificed to keep the other troops in line. Well, the bar and the sandbags is also a clever mirror of the front of the Federal Reserve building. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I really don't think I am. You need to go online and watch Rob Ager's analysis of the Gold Room and how he talks about currencies and tender and surrender and your money's no good here and your credit's fine. And Rob's a genius. You need to watch all his video. Any video Rob Ager does, watch it, and you'll learn things. So my analysis is the Gold Room bar is the Federal Reserve, is the IRS tax day, is Jackie Robinson Day, is the sinking of the Titanic, is the first flight of the B-52, is the day the Donner Party leaves Lincoln is April 15th. So we're being clued that the overall controllers of the matrix we live in are right in front of us, and there they are. You know, the Titanic is sunk as an insurance job, but they parlay they don't let a good accident go to waste. They take all the people that were opposing the Federal Reserve, they throw them on, give them free tickets to the Titanic maiden voyage, and then it sinks. And the weird thing is, all the really wealthy men that opposed the Federal Reserve that were on the Titanic, they didn't survive. Only Molly Brown did. So these men were probably shot, in the hull of the ship as it was sinking, more likely. And so the Guggenheims and all the men that didn't make it out of the Titanic, they were the men that opposed the Federal Reserve, and they die on April 15th, IRS tax day. So think about it. We have hidden. Apollo 11 lands near the Descartes crater. Descartes was a man that didn't believe the round Earth story, and he said that publicly. So we're clued into flat earthers. We also have Edgar Allan Poe and George Bernard Shaw were both flat earthers. You can do a search online for George Bernard Shaw, and you can find quotes where he says, the Earth isn't round. People think it is, but it's ridiculous. He's your Eugene Krantz again with a different vest, the handmade, hand-sewn terrier, quilty, Sigourney Weaver, the wicker chairs, the wicker hat, the hand-woven Indian rugs. It goes on and on. The torn, handmade Apollo sweater with a thread missing. The magic threads, Theseus and the magic thread and the Minotaur. Sing in the Rain with Gene Kelly, King of the Dance. So let's close this out. You've seen that. Let's go to, we have another fisheye being used here. We can clearly see this is filmed through a fisheye. The whole movie is filmed through a fisheye. The reason he does that is because NASA uses the fisheye to simulate the globe. Here we have Icarus and Daedalus crater, father and son. Daedalus creates the labyrinth that imprisons the Minotaur. His son creates the wings that fly too high. So we have the Icarus's, we have Stanley Kubrick's Icarus speech where he says, build better wings. We have Daedalus creates the labyrinth. These are two craters on the moon. It's just too much synchronicity. It's clearly a clue set. There's the vest, the hand-knitted vest. We have the snakes. We have the Apollo simulation project, the ASP. We have the Sidewinder, the road up to the Overlook. We have Bruce Boa, the Pogue General in Full Metal Jacket. We have little Alex has a boa. So we're being including the snakes and the Adams probe and the apple and the Garden of Eden. Here's the black duct tape box, just like the silver duct tape box in Apollo 13. And this is 1, 2, 3, 13. We have the woman with the 13 jersey walks by. Here's the Adams probe. This is rear screen projection. So Kubrick is an expert in front screen projection before he makes this movie. And yet he chooses the hokiest rear screen projection he can get. And then not only that, he makes the scene look hokey. It doesn't look real at all. We see this is a scene where we see the white beetle go off the road. They were playing Hogs of the Road, they say. Here's Singing in the Rain. This is Gene Kelly Singing in the Rain. And the TV airing date of Singing in the Rain is canceled because of Kennedy's killing. So that's another little clue there. Yeah, ready for that. Yeah, let's see here. There's Forrestal hanging out with Truman. Gene Kelly. We've got Gene Tooney, the boxer who fought Jack Dempsey. We've got Forrestal, Singing in the Rain. Let's go to the Genes category. We got Buzz Eugene Aldrin. We got Eugene Krantz with his handmade, hand-sewn vests that he wears every mission. We've got Eugene Cernan. So this is the first man to the moon, Buzz Aldrin. This is the last man on the moon, Eugene Cernan. And he writes a book, Last Man on the Moon. His nickname's Gino. And we got Eugene Kelly. This is Gene Kelly Singing in the Rain. We got Eugene Roddenberry. He writes all the Star Trek, the Cage episode, the only one he writes. We got Norma Jean. This is Marilyn Monroe. We got Billie Jean King. This is the Billie Jean King, Arthur Ashe, as in Fire, Ash, Burns twins, Overlook, Collins Axe. The hotel burns down. The boilers explode. It's built on the side of a volcano. And her tennis stadium is in Corona, Flushing, Queens, the same place where we see the Unisphere and the Apollo stuff for the first time. And we get Eugene Tooney, the boxer that hangs out with James Forrestal and helps train the Navy sailors on the ship. And we get the wicker chair. We get the needle has only one eye. The wicker hat, Betsy von Furstenberg. Theseus's magic thread, the Apollo hand-knitted sweater. The cashmere sweater that's lost on the Hilton Space Station in 2001: A Space Odyssey. The woven Indian rugs that we see in The Shining. Eugene Krantz handmade vests that he wears. A new one. He gets a new one every mission. His wife makes a new one. She's a seamstress, a terrier, a quilty. We have, these are all the Jungian archetypes we're looking for here. And there's a lot of Eugenes. So what does this mean? This is a little clue to eugenics. As I talked before about the fluoride and the vaccinations and the jabs and the It goes on and on. The AIDS and the TB and the Lyme's disease and the ALS and all the other stuff that's in this puzzle, they're all eugenics programs. So who are the eugenicists? Who is behind this? That's the question. So let's close the genes. You already know what this is. There's another gene. There's Forrestal, Eugene Tooney, the boxer. MJ12. There's Tooney training the Navy sailors. And I think that's it for this video here. I think I covered most of the stuff. Here's Tooney again. He was a very wealthy, well-connected family, not just some random Joe. Oh, here's one I think. Okay, so Leonard Nimoy plays Spock, Vulcan. So Vulcan is a Greek god. He makes all the weapons. He walks with a limp, and he was thrown into the underworld. And so Vulcan his symbols are the fire and the forge. So we already have the fire, and we have all these fire clues, and now we have Vulcan and Spock. So if we take Spock's name and we rearrange the letter, we can make Pox. So there's no chicken and watermelon served in my core. We have chicken, and we have pox, chicken pox. So we have smallpox, chicken pox. It's another clue to the diseases. He's the blacksmith. So in Back to the Future, we have Doc Brown. He lives on Kennedy Street, and he's a blacksmith. So we're being given the same clues. Back to the Future is very alchemical. They use Saturn. They have the lightning bolts from Jupiter hit Saturn in the clock tower, and there's a lot of good videos. I'm going to find one and I'll post it into this. All the clues to the Greek gods. You have the Neptune under the sea dance with his trident, and you see the trident and Neptune in the dance. So here's Vulcan. He walks with a limp. He has a bad leg. This one's very clever. In the movie The Shining, there's a scene that's cut. 20 minutes are cut off the end of the movie, just like JFK, just like Dr. Strangelove is cut. And we see Danny playing a game called Snakes and Ladders. This is the game called Snakes and Ladders. And you use colors and numbers and ladders. And we hear Jack say in the Gold Room bar that when he asked him what he wants to drink, and he goes, Lloyd asked him what he wants to drink, he goes, "Hair of the dog that bit me." Well, Nazareth is a band, a Scottish band, no less. A very rarity in rock and roll. There's not too many Scottish bands out there, but Nazareth is a Scottish band. And Nazareth does an album called Snakes and Ladders, just like the game Danny was playing. Nazareth does a song called Hair of the Dog. And on the cover of the album, we have a Sidewinder snake. So we got the Sidewinder from The Overlook. We've got the Snakes and Ladders games from The Shining Danny plays that's cut out of the movie. We have a Scottish rock band. And we have Hair of the Dog. What does all this mean? What is this? This is a joke from Kubrick. And what he's telling you is, now you're messing with a son of a bitch, which is Hair of the Dog. Now you're messing with a... So it's a little allegorical Kubrickian puzzle here that we have the Scottish rock band, Snakes and Ladders, the Sidewinder, the Snakes and Ladders game, the Hair of the Dog, So it's very clever. Kubrick was a genius. And that's the end of this video, I believe. I don't think I have anything more. This is not my picture. This is an artist who's done this. It's very good. And here we have all the blue marbles. And guess what? They don't match. They're all different. The U.S. is about 3 times the size it is in this one. So, they're all like snowflakes. They're all different. And they're all fake. They're all paintings. And that's the end of this video. Thank you.